The team that's never been on Hard Knocks, I would love to see the most is the Patriots. I would love to see Bill Belichick squirm and frown behind the scenes like he's got hemorrhoids shifting. And that would be a fabulous story. But this year, the one I would like to see is Arizona because of DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt and Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. We could go see him at his house again. Cliff could take us behind the scenes like that famous picture from last year's draft and hang out at Cliff's house. I just think they would be a fun franchise to watch.
Thursday edition of Birds 365. John McClain, Jody McDonald with you. We are very excited about our next guest joining us because he brings a lot of knowledge in the National Football League to us. And oh, by the way, he's got a quarterback that has been talked about a lot here in Philadelphia. He's never played it down here, but people are wishfully thinking for the future. John McClain of the Houston Chronicle joins us here on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, how are you?
I'm great, Jody. And John, how are you today?
Doing well. Thrilled to have you on the show, John. I think we have to start with Deshaun Watson, and obviously nobody's been closer to the situation than you. Obviously, there's uncertainty, but Nick Caesaro spoke a few weeks ago and said he expects something to come down by training camp. And I think, from the outside looking in, we think commissioner's exempless. Is there any other avenue you see for this in the short term rather than the long term?
No, absolutely not. Nobody knew what Nick Caserio was talking about when he said that on the flagship radio station here, Sports Radio 610, because nobody expects anything to happen before training camp. Watson still has the 22 civil suits. It's an unprecedented situation. A great quarterback, 25 years old, under contract through 2025. The NFL is investigating. You guys know how slow the NFL investigative arm is. They have other things they're investigating as well. And there's the police investigation here. And I don't think anything will happen until the legal issues are resolved. Now, I'm not talking about with Goodell because he doesn't have to have legal issues resolved, as you guys know. So I believe that after Watson has this behind him, then they'll trade him, but they're not going to take the first offer. And we talk a lot about the Eagles down here because Jalen Hurts is here, of course. He's a really popular player here, he and his family. But the fact is, if you could have Jalen Hurts or Deshaun Watson, who's coming off a great season in every statistic, who would you rather have? And, of course, the Eagles could have 3 number 1 picks next year if Wentz stays healthy. So there are other teams, and I think the best time to trade him would be before next year's draft, after the Eagles have seen Jalen Hurts, after the Giants have found out in Daniel Jones' 3rd year if they think he's the guy or not. They have 2 number 1s. Detroit has 2 number 1s. What if they don't like Jared Goff in his first season with them? Plus, Denver has been interested all along, as have other teams. And Carolina showed a lot of interest before, if he was available before the season. Would they make a trade or would they rather see what they could get out of Sam Darnold? So I think that best offers would be before the draft. But I know this, guys, Watson wants to move on. The Texans want to move on. But these are 22 lawsuits, and they are disturbing, and those are serious accusations. And the women who file them deserve to be heard.
John, one of the most intriguing things that have come out in the last couple of weeks about this entire situation, I understand that the lawsuits are the lawsuits, and the NFL doesn't want to be beholden to what happens in a court of law, but nor do they want to overstep or do something to fly in the face of court decisions. So they're doing their own investigation, and they always do. I did see a quote from the lawyer who represents the plaintiffs in the case, all the people who have brought lawsuits against Deshaun Watson, his stating that no one from the NFL is yet to interview Deshaun Watson, that they're doing an investigation, but they're not talking to the guy who they're investigating. How can that possibly be true?
Well, Jody, that's true because they always do the talking in Roger Goodell's office at the end of the investigation, not at the start. Goodell's got to have the facts as he can get them from his investigative department. He wouldn't talk to him early before he had all the facts. And so at the end, that's when they'll call him on the carpet in New York. So to me, that was not surprising at all. I didn't expect that anytime soon. And even after they get him on the carpet in the commissioner's office, it doesn't mean he's going to make a verdict in a week or 2 weeks. Some of these investigations have taken a year or more. And so I don't think anything's going to happen anytime soon. Most people believe Watson will be suspended under the personal conduct policy. It just depends on how long that will be. And also, he could go on the commissioner's exempt list, and he would get paid his $10.5 million base salary and to work out on his own. And only Goodell can determine that, no matter if the team or a player wanted to go on the exempt list. They have nothing to do with it. It's just Goodell. When they go on, how long they stay, and when they come off, all is to be determined by the commissioner.
All right, John, let's talk about your team, the Houston Texans, that you cover. Now, you've been around for a long time. You go back to the Oilers days. So I want to ask, have you ever seen more upheaval in one off season for one organization? When you talk about obviously new head coach, we just mentioned the quarterback situation and the uncertainty there, but the turnover on this roster, even in the modern environment where there's significant turnover, it's pretty amazing. Are there any comps to it?
John, I go back to 1977 and Bum Phillips and the Oilers, and I've never seen turnover like this. Nick Caserio was brought in from New England, where he spent the last 20 years, 13 as personnel director. He showed what he thinks about this team, and so he's brought in 50 new players, 42 of them in veterans, all got 1 or 2 year contracts. Only one, Cameron Johnston, got a 3-year contract. So you got a lot of hungry veterans who either were hurt last year or didn't play real well last year, or their teams didn't want them back. So you've got these guys knowing they're on short-term prove-it contracts with the cap going back up next year, and there's going to be a lot of competition. They have so many players at every position, it's hard to keep up. There are 3 quarterbacks. Tyrod Taylor is the starter. Jeff Driscoll's the backup. Rookie Davis Mills is third. It's the first time since their expansion season in 2002 in which all the quarterbacks are new. And I wrote a column this week on our sports website, TexasSportsNation.com, about how do they distribute those snaps in camp and preseason when you have Tyrod Taylor, who needs to learn his new teammates and a new system. Jeff Driscoll, you got to get him a little action. But Davis Mills, the first pick that from Stanford, that's the one everybody wants to see. At some point this season, guys, they have to take an extensive look at Davis Mills. The problem with him is he started only 11 games at Stanford. You know, COVID-19 and what happened in the Pac-12 really hurt him. Had he stayed, he might have been a top 10 pick next year. But at some point, they've got to watch him play multiple games. And I believe the ideal time would be after the bye week. They play 9, they've got a bye week, then they've got 8. That would be the time to look, because if he can't convince them he's the guy, then they got to target a quarterback first and foremost in next off season. But if he could, it could have a tremendous impact on their draft, because they could rebuild at other positions, and they're going to have a high number 1, maybe first overall, as most of us think. And then they might have another 1 or 2 or 2 1s for Deshaun Watson. So that's the key to the rebuild. But right now they've got a revolving door over at NRG Stadium. I feel bad for everybody that's got to keep up with the plane tickets, getting these guys in and out of town.
John, if the quarterback position is in flux, and I think we can safely say that, one of the best ways to de-emphasize that is your ability to run the football. And they've got a couple of new running backs that have come in either last year and or this year, including Philip Lindsay, a guy I've always been a fan of. And at times he flashes and looks like he could be the real deal and a big-time player. And at others, he disappears. You can either lay that blame at his feet and or his offensive coaching in Denver, or the organization in whole. He signed this year with the Texans. Give me a quick evaluation of the Texas running game, because if the quarterbacks aren't up to snuff and Deshaun isn't back and we're not sure exactly what Tyrod Taylor brings to the table, are they going to be able to run the football effectively this year?
That's mission number one on offense. Last year, they ran it fewest times in franchise history, had the second fewest yards rushing to their first season in 2002. And Tim Kelly, the offensive coordinator, he was calling plays for Watson to throw, which was smart because Watson played great and he was all they had. Other than they had a good receiver, Brandon Cooks, who was terrific. So now they're going to go back to the run and try to have balance. They have so many new offensive linemen. They're going to have 2 or 3 new starters on the interior. And you guys know linemen like to fire off the ball and hit people. So they'll be doing that again. And David Culley, the new coach, comes from Baltimore. Ravens were number 1 in rushing last 2 years. 3 years before that, he's in Buffalo, and they ranked in the top 10 in rushing then. So he wants to run the ball. Caserio comes from the Patriots. They were 4th in rushing last year. So they have David Johnson, returning starter, Philip Lindsay coming off an injury last season, Mark Ingram, who was benched in Baltimore, and Rex Burkhead, who was signed coming off knee surgery from the Patriots. So they have 4 veterans. Not all will make the team, but they will reemphasize the run. And as you just mentioned, Jody, that's good for a quarterback, but it's also good for a defense that was pathetic last season, forced the second fewest turnovers in the NFL going back to 1980, was last against the run, was terrible against the pass. That defense needs help beyond so many new players.
Now, one of the players on the defense that is gone is probably the best player in franchise history, and that's J.J. Watt. But you talked about they were not successful with J.J. Was it just time to move on? And what did he mean to that organization? What did he mean to Houston? I mean, J.J. Watt is just a giant in this game, but was it just time?
We've had a lot of great players come through this city, and none's done for the community what J.J. Watt had done. And he had overcome 2 injuries. He'd come back the last 2 years. He was healthy. Last year he had his career low in sacks, but it wasn't because of him. It's because he had no help whatsoever. All the statistics things, Next Gen Stats, Pro Football Focus, they all had him one of the top defensive men in the league, but he had no help around him, and he wanted out. He went to the McNair family, asked them to release him. He turned 31 in March. He wanted to sign with a team that he wanted to sign with, and they said, okay. And they gave him his release. He told us at the end of the year he just didn't want to be part of a rebuild at this late stage of his career, so he joined DeAndre Hopkins in Arizona. Lovie Smith was brought in to install a base 4-3. First time they played a base 4-3 since 2010, the year before Wade Phillips arrived, and then Romeo Crennel replaced Wade Phillips. So they've got a new scheme. They have lots of new players in that front 7 as they make that transition. I don't know how much better they'll be, if at all, but they can't be any worse on defense, especially against the run when they were 32nd by a long shot.
Yeah. Last Texan question, then we got a couple overall league questions for you, John. J.J. Watt's production goes out the door. You just said his numbers were down, but it might not have been his fault. Acknowledged and agreed. He was also the leader of that football team, the entire football team, but most specifically the defense. Who does that leadership role pass to, if anyone, for this upcoming year's defense for the Texans?
That's a great question, Jody. I was asked that on one of my radio shows here in Houston yesterday. Zach Cunningham is a veteran middle linebacker, and he's not a vocal guy at all. Justin Reed, a 4th-year safety, one of their best players. I would think it would be Justin, a popular guy, very vocal, and a really good player. I think it'll be him. Somebody asked me about the defensive line. I said, I don't even know who those guys are. They brought in so many new ones. Then they have 4 linebackers making the transition to end. And so I would say Zach Cunningham or Justin Reed, but there will never be anybody to lead this team or perform for the team like Watt did.
Right.
I'm going to sneak one more Texans one in on you, Jeff, because locally I want to hear. You mentioned Cam Johnston signed a 3-year deal. He was obviously the punter for the Eagles. It's difficult to say in the offseason, but just how is he fitting in? And also Camus Grugier-Hill, sort of a modern type linebacker. I think he's the type of guy you can run. They had him in New England. Nick had him in New England. Is he going to be a big part of that defense?
There's a good chance he could start at outside linebacker. He, Kevin Pierre-Louis, and Christian Kirksey are all former starters. And we did a Zoom with him during the off season. Everybody liked him a lot. Lovie Smith said he likes him because he can run and he's tenacious. That's the thing about veterans coming in here. You got a chance to start, not just get playing time, but you got a chance to start and make more money. As far as Johnston, they cut a really good punter, Brian Anger, which surprised me because he had a great season. But then when they signed Johnston, it's obvious Nick Caserio liked him a lot and David Culley liked him a lot. But to be the only player out of those 50 that got a 3-year contract, that shows you what they think about Johnston. And that by all accounts so far, they like the guy, but nobody knows about a punter, of course, till they get the regular season. But you guys saw him. You know he's good. So special teams are the least of problems on this team.
Johnny Mac, speaking of those problems, you've already acknowledged they're going to be looking up at the rest of that division this year. Do have the Jaguars there. Lawrence may hit the ground running, and they may improve pretty significantly this year with Urban Meyer. But there's a division. There's the 2 top teams, and then there's the 2 lower teams. Of the 2 top teams, we've got a little interest in Carson Wentz and the Indianapolis Colts this year because a draft pick is tied to it, where it's going to fall, and the like. Your eyes, who's the team to beat in this division, Tennessee or Indianapolis?
I picked Tennessee last year. They won the division. I picked Tennessee before they got Julio Jones. When you have Derrick Henry and you have A.J. Brown and Ryan Tannehill, perfect for that system of play action. They averaged 31 points a game before they brought in Julio Jones. Their problem is defense. They're going to score a lot of points. As far as the Colts, 4th starting quarterback in 4 years. If Wentz was great, he'd still be there for Philadelphia. He wouldn't be reunited with Frank Reich. So they've got a lot to prove in Indy before they can overtake the Colts, but it's clearly a 2-team race. I expect both of them to make the playoffs again. As far as Jacksonville's improvement, Jaguars won the first game, lost 15 in a row. You got a first-time head coach. We don't know if he can coach in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence is a rookie. How many rookie quarterbacks step in and win 7 or 8 games? It's rare. And so I don't expect the Jaguars to be good. I think they'll just be better than the Texans. The Texans have beaten them 6 in a row, going back to 2017. But I do know this. 3rd team will be Jacksonville. 4th will be the Texans. And I suspect the 1st team will be the Titans.
Yeah. John, we talked about Deshaun Watson a lot. He is not the biggest story in the NFL this offseason. Aaron Rodgers certainly has been. The impact of the potential of his moving, having on Deshaun Watson, all those dominoes. You mentioned Denver, for instance. That's a team that, in theory, would be heavily interested in an Aaron Rodgers. How do you think those dominoes not only fall, but affect Houston and the Deshaun Watson situation when it can move forward?
Well, guys, I've said from the beginning, I do not think Rodgers will be traded for a lot of reasons. Number one, because he tried to get a new contract extension and he didn't get it. And right after his agent went back to California, it leaked to Adam Schefter that he wanted out. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they don't sweeten that pot to get him to come in. As far as Denver, the Broncos would have to give up so much for Rodgers. And I don't care if he wants to play into his 40s. You're sacrificing the next 2 or 3 years for a quarterback that wouldn't have many weapons. And so I just don't see it. Plus, I pay a lot of attention to what the former Packer players are in the media, what they think, and I haven't seen any that think he's going to be gone. And they've shown no inclination to trade him. And if they did, then they got Jordan Love. They wouldn't be interested in Watson. The Broncos were one of 8 teams that had contacted the Texans to let them know they were interested if they became interested in trading him. The plan was to trade him somewhere, start the negotiations somewhere around April 1st, conclude right before the draft, see how many teams you could get bidding against each other. But then the legal issues came out. Everybody put the interest on hold. It'll happen some point. Don't know if it'll be before camp, the season, trade deadline in October, or before next year's draft. But I think if Rodgers did go to the Broncos, all that would mean is the Broncos would be out of the Watson sweepstakes.
Johnny, you do enough of these spots, as you just told me. I asked a question you just been asked yesterday. Here's one I bet you haven't been asked, and it's probably on me because I'm kind of obsessed with this show. I talked to my partner here about it yesterday. If you got a conference call from the president of HBO Sports and Roger Goodell, and they said, John McClain, we so trust your ability to sniff out the narratives of the National Football League. We're going to slam dunk Hard Knocks down the throat of an NFL team this year. They're not going to have a choice. We're doing it with them. Which team should that be? Which team is the best story coming into 2021, in your opinion?
The team that's never been on Hard Knocks I would love to see the most is the Patriots. I would love to see Bill Belichick squirm and frown behind the scenes like he's got hemorrhoids, 15. That would be a fabulous story. But this year, the one I would like to see is Arizona because of DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt and Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury. We could go see him at his house again. Cliff could take us behind the scenes like that famous picture from last year's draft and hang out at Cliff's house. I just think they would be a fun franchise to watch. Plus, they're coming off an 8-8 season. They got a chance to be pretty good in a division I believe is the best in the NFL.
By the way, John, Nick brought that Patriots way, at least in one way, down to Houston with no numbers. We talk about 50 new players, whatever, and they didn't have any numbers on these guys in OTAs. So you don't know who's who.
First day of OTAs, they passed us out rosters with numbers. And I walked by the owner, Cal McNair. He said, "How are you?" I said, "Terrible." He said, "Why?" I held it up in front of him. I said, "What do you think about this?" And I did a video about it that ran on our Chronicle website, in which I ended it with, here's how much information and how useful this roster is. And I tore it up and threw the pieces in the air. And then I made a mistake because I had to clean them up, of course, in the parking lot. And I cut it into too many pieces. It took me about 30 minutes with a bad back to bend and pick them all up and put them in the trash. But the next day they fixed everything. They also had on their website, the 50 new players didn't have numbers next to their name, but that got fixed fast. And turned out the Patriots had tried that, and the NFL and the Pro Football Writers of America got involved. They didn't have to do that here, but it didn't last long there. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Johnny Mack, I want to relate to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. We had Paul Domwich on earlier. He's a Pro Football Hall of Fame writer. You're a guy who has won awards from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This upcoming class is going to be a big one. We watch a lot of NFL Network, and every day they're trying to tell the greatest class to ever go into the history of the Hall of Fame. Is it? Or they're doing their job, which is to promote and hype and the like. But is this group that's going in this year because of last year inability? It's the biggest group ever, but is it the best group that's ever going into the Hall of Fame?
Well, no, you can never say. The best group was the first one in 1963. My God, they covered decades and took some of the greatest players in history at that one. They'll never equal that one. And I think every year I think, wow, we're never going to put a better class than we do the next one. This will be the largest. You have the Centennial class. I was honored to be on that committee with some of the greatest NFL people ever, including coaches, former GMs, people in the Hall of Fame. I'm on the selection committee, senior committee, coaches committee, and it's such an honor to be on there. But man, every year it's hard to say it's the best. I think it is, but then the next one comes along. I know this. I feel bad for the people at the Hall of Fame. They've been working 24/7 for months to pull off what they're about to pull off with so many inductees, and they'll do a tremendous job. But, this is a great one, but next year we may say the same thing.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to end this. Fun one for you, John, because I'm watching cable this month, and constantly they're playing the longest yard, the Adam Sandler one. Well, Burt Reynolds is in it too. But I say, but in the movie, and I say, oh, there's McClain. How many movies have you been in over the years?
I've been in 9. The last one I did was the one that was the most fun, Spring Breakers with James Franco, which is on cable like every night. And I get residuals. I played a judge, and I had to sentence 4 women, Selena Gomez, the directors, Harmony Korine's wife, Rachel Korine, Vanessa Hudgens, and Ashley Benson. And so I spent 9 hours in a courtroom with them one day, and I enjoyed it. It was a blast. 50-something takes, most of the time because they had to shoot Franco in so many different lightings and angles. But it was a fun day and a great experience. And that was my last one because my agent's awful, and that agent would be me.
Oh, okay. There you go. I was gonna go. Damn, he's bad mouthing his agent. Yeah. But now you got to tell us that's the end of the story. You got to take us back to the beginning of the story. How did you get this aspiring second career as a cameo appearance actor?
It started with The Rookie when a Baylor buddy of mine, John Lee Hancock, whose last directing job was The Little Things with Denzel Washington earlier this year. And he was doing The Rookie. And I went on the set because I'm fascinated by movie sets. And then they had to go to Arlington to the Rangers ballpark to film a scene where Morris comes out and pitches for the first time for the Rays as being the oldest rookie in history. So they asked me if I wanted to be an extra. And I said, sure. And I said, what do you need for extras? He said, well, we got to have a press box scene. We'll have extras in there. I said, well, let me get media people. They can help you publicize this, talk shows and columnists and writers. So they go, okay. So I rounded up a bunch of media people, and we had a blast that day. They wrote stories about it, and the producers are like, we may be onto something. So most of the movies I've done have been with those producers because I've helped them promote those movies, and I love doing it. And if I had a chance to do it again, I would. Once we hit the internet, though, and it's a 24/7, don't have time to spend 2 or 3 days on a movie set waiting for them to say, okay, you're up. One more. And when we did Secretariat, I had a scene with Diane Lane and John Malkovich, and they cut out my lines, and which was fine. And we had a group. There was like 5 of us taking a picture with Diane Lane and the director. And they sent it to me, and I had our graphics person at the Chronicle cut out everybody but me and Diane Lane.
Nice. There you go.
We were on the set by ourselves. We ran that on our website. I got so much attention from guys because what guy doesn't like Diane Lane?
Yeah.
Yeah, you certainly would have gotten a thumbs up from McDonald and McClain. That's for damn sure. Johnny Mac, thank you much for coming on. We will tap into your insight from time to time during the upcoming year if you are gracious enough to jump aboard with us. Thanks for doing so today.
Jody and John, it's my pleasure. Thank you guys very much. Have great luck with the show. Keep up the good work, and I hope to see you guys soon.
Well,
thanks, John.
Do just that if you say yes when we ask you to hop aboard with us. That is John McClain of the Houston Chronicle here with us on Birds 365. Johnny Mac, Jody Mac, whole bunch of Macs. We'll come back and put a Mac bow on the end of the show.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.